Hi, my name is Ben and welcome to Field and Foley. I'm excited to introduce my next guest, Adrian Ide. I had the pleasure of meeting him at a party during GamesCom and we instantly connected, spending hours diving deep into conversations about audio in games and other media. Adrian is currently studying film and television production at the Film University Babelsberg, where he's honing his craft in storytelling and production. And as Adrian is legally blind, it gives him a unique perspective in his work and the world of audio. So, Adrian, welcome to the show and thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
The first thing I'd like you to ask is, as you're currently studying at the prestigious Film University Babelsberg, what made you choose film and television production?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story, actually. Since my time at school, I visited an ADR booth that was recording German dubs for anime productions.
Mm.
And after my graduation, I started working there. And after some time, they told me, "Hey, Adrian, why don't you study at the Film University? You have so many ideas, and this seems the perfect fit for you."
Oh, perfect. And how has your experience been so far?
It's been a blast. Really, it's great studying there. We have so many possibilities to refine our craft, and getting to meet so many people. It's amazing.
Oh man, can imagine. Yeah, it's also on my list to visit there at some point. I hope I can do that, but it's like definitely top on my list. But now I have someone who is there, so I'm gonna use
Well,
my
you should
connections.
definitely visit us.
Yeah, of course, I will do that. Yeah, I will do that. And what I also like to know is what kind of projects did you work on so far in your studies? Like what exactly did you do there?
Well, since we have many classes to attend, I only had time to work at the mandatory practical exams.
Mm-hmm.
And the first year is mainly focused on documentaries. So what I have currently done is a 15-minute documentary where I did the production with another student
Mm-hmm.
together. This film is it's releasing in 2 or 3 weeks at the Cologne Short Film Festival.
Oh, nice. What's it called?
It's called Tough Moves.
Tough Moves. I'm gonna make a note here to check it out.
It's really a great movie. We followed a chess boxer 1 week in his daily routine between training for boxing and chess and managing his family. He's a 13-year-old boy when we filmed. He was, and his family is a wild bunch. It was amazing getting to know all of them.
Yeah, that is very unique indeed. I mean, chess boxing is a strange sport indeed.
Yeah,
That's
a niche
interesting.
sport for sure.
Yeah. So, and what did you do on the project specifically?
Well, as I said, I'm studying production, so I was mainly there for clearing the rights, so we can shoot at the various locations, and that everybody who is in the picture
Mm-hmm.
gives us the okay that we can release the film with their face in it, and also the music and every major featured product must be cleared when it comes to rights.
Yeah, of course. That's always a hassle, depending on how many people are there, and getting all those waiver signs.
Yeah, especially in documentary where so many people just pass you by on the street, and you have to stop everybody and say, "Hey, you were just walking through our shoot. Could you please sign this paper so we can use the footage we just shot?"
So, and what happens if someone says no? Like, do you have to make like a note for a timestamp to remove or blur a face, or how does that happen?
Yeah, that's the ugly solution. Just blurring. This doesn't look great in the finished product. So, if this was to happen, we would try to cut around this person. But if it is a crucial scene, we don't have a choice but to obscure their face so nobody can recognize them.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a tough choice, especially for documentaries. You don't want to like say the same line 5 times, just like in a movie. You want like natural reactions, right?
Yeah, well, that's a no-go actually.
Yeah.
There have been some outcries where some scenes have been staged, although they were based on real occurrences. But documentary is pretty much the same it has been for 50 years now. Well, at least it's perceived the same way for 50 years now, mainly with the cinema verite and the direct cinema philosophies of the mid 20th century. And that's there are deviations from that, and they are not niche, but they are getting explored. But the main way how documentary is perceived is still this fly on the wall. We just shoot what happens before us, and nothing is staged or reshot.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I mean you can see that especially in the very good documentaries. I'm guessing, of course, because sometimes you cannot see behind the magic. But I really think you notice if a person that has just been through something emotional has to redo the line. There's always something off with that.
You can't recreate those moments.
Yeah, especially if you're not like a professional actor, but just starring in a documentary about you or about something. Yeah. And maybe also on the topic, I mean, that's also already something very challenging, but maybe so far, what has been the most challenging thing you've worked on, and what did you do to overcome those challenges?
Well, it is actually the documentary shoot, since we have to have everything, since we have our attention everywhere while we are shooting, so nothing gets past us. It's really difficult when you can't see if someone is walking by. Luckily, the university is very open to my disability, and they do a lot to help me find ways around that. But it sometimes is still a moment where I just can't do the same things as the other students, and especially while shooting the documentary out on the street, I got to realize that was such a moment.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good point to touch upon, because like we've met at the GamesCom, the Beans after party, and we immediately hit it off, and but I've realized that I haven't been in contact with a lot of visually impaired people in the past, like maybe once or twice, but just like a few sentences. And I immediately recognized so many things where you pointed me in the right direction and told me like, hey, you could do this now. Or when we were walking to the bar, you essentially told me, hey, it would be a good time now to tell people that here's a blind person. That would make it way easier. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, totally makes sense. So I would like to know from you, like, what are some common misconceptions about your visual impairment that you're confronted with more often?
Wow, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest misconception maybe is that blindness means black, so you can't see anything. But there are actually differences in blindness. You can be blind and still receive some information from your eyes. And I am such a case. So while I am legally blind, I still can recognize at least a bit of visual informations, which is a huge help, actually. That might be the biggest misconception. And then there are these small things like, oh, I should help you get down or up these stairs because you are blind. And that's really funny because I have to walk stairs every day, and there's not every time someone who can help me up or down them. So I kind of have to know how to walk stairs. But many people feel obligated to help me in a moment where they see me approach a staircase.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I mean, that is something that like your mind jumps into. But then if you think longer about it, just like you said, like of course he probably has to go up and down stairs every day. So at some point he's figured out a way of doing it. So that's very interesting. And going into a bit more of the specifics, you said you receive visual inputs, and we talked about that at a party as well, and it fascinated me. So I'd like to just also, for our listeners, maybe you could go a little bit into more detail what kind of signals you get and what is helpful for you to use as signal inputs in which situations, just like an example or something.
Well, for simplicity's sake, I often describe what I can see with imagine you are viewing the world through a CRT television set. So there are all these informations, and you can see in the distance, so there's not a cutoff in 2 or 3 meters, but you can actually see further than that. But it gets blurry really, really quick, and almost every detail is lost. And what I can get out of this information are the basic shapes of things and how they move when I am moving. Since I can only use one eye, I can't perceive depth.
Yeah. We also talked about during the party, like, are there any specific films or games that inspire your work?
Well, yeah, definitely. Just for clarification, I'm not involved in the creative process of finding the material for the movies I'm currently working at. That's more the director's classes job. But I'm definitely drawn towards melancholic themes, and I think that's kind of resembled in the works that inspired me. I'm a huge Persona 4 fan. Do you know this game?
I haven't played it, but I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it specifically about it that you love?
Just this theme of getting to a new place, having to restart your social life, and also having something you follow with your group of friends. In the game's case, it's a murder mystery, but it just clicked with me since I had this situation more than once already in my life, and playing this game just helped me to realize what a potential I had with these moments in my life, and how I could get more out of it, perhaps.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And well, I kind of have to name Star Wars, since this is the movie series that drew me into media and movies and entertainment at the first place.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot, and funny enough, I have a story about a colleague of my mother who had a visual impairment from a sickness, and it was like an instant thing. Like, he walked out of his office and he described it as like a curtain coming down, and then everything was black. So for him, it was like total total visual impairment. But he had this when I think he turned 40. So instantly from seeing all his life going to blindness, but he's a very, very cheerful person and an optimistic person. And he loved Star Wars always. So the new Star Wars was just coming out, and he just had this moment and yeah, just trying to gripe with all the things. And he told us that he's gonna see the movie and is very excited. And he brings a friend that describes some scenes for him if he's getting lost in the plot. And afterwards, I was like just asking him like how was your experience, and he told us essentially, I pity you, because for me it was the best Star Wars movie ever created, because the images in my mind were exactly like how I imagined the movie, the best version of the movie, and the sound of course was great as always. So I found this really, really interesting and kind of cool that of course this positive outlook in general is always good and doesn't matter which situation you are in life, but this idea of well, I just imagined, because I saw all the images before, I can imagine my perfect version of this movie, and the sound helps so much. He told us like the sound helped so much to stay in the scene. But one of the things that I always hear is, especially with dialogues, there used to be, or I mean it still is, that dialogues are just mixed in mono or just in the center speaker a lot. And so it is really hard to follow who's talking and where they are in the room. Do you also have that feeling? Do you know that from movies you've watched where it's like, okay, everybody's talking just at a specific place and there's no real depth to the conversations?
Yeah, definitely. You touched on this subject with Mariana Lopez, I think. And,
Yes.
I really enjoyed your talk about this subject. And it's something I was wondering a long time, actually, because it feels so narrow-minded, just taking all dialogue and putting it to the center speaker and then moving anything that isn't dialogue around, so it creates the feeling of surround. Kind of feels like you're trying to combine how it's been done with new innovations, and
Yeah.
I would really love to see a movie where they just go full ham and let the dialogue fly around the room.
Yeah. That's something that I always like to do in whatever media I work in, to make sure the dialogue is not just center mixed, because even for me, like I really enjoy these, I don't know, these dynamic kind of more lifelike conversations, because if someone is walking towards you while they're talking, I mean, oftentimes nowadays it has been done, but of course there's always the thing of, especially in movies, you have so many cuts where people kind of are in different places. So if you, during a sentence, if you cut to the face of another person and the first person that's still talking is off frame, what do you do with that? Like, do you, I don't know, just turn the volume a bit down, or do you keep it in the original space? It's always a kind of, I don't know, a kind of trade-off probably. But I mean, especially in games, I think there's been, at least in my mind, I don't know if you can attest to that, but I think there's a lot of the times there hasn't been that problem, because especially if you're walking around somewhere and NPCs are talking, they're usually talking from the space they're currently in, and if you move away, you can clearly hear moving away from their voices.
Yeah,
right?
that's one of my favorite things I do while talking to someone, just moving the camera around so I can hear how their voice lines moves around me with my camera perspective. It's
Yeah, that's
yeah,
wonderful. I also do that.
it's really fun. I can't describe it really. It's
Yeah.
yeah, and while you were talking, I just remembered that in the early or mid 2000s, many DVDs actually had a surround 5.1 audio track, and they kinda did something like Mariana Lopez described. At least in one case, I can definitely say that they had only a stereo international track, so only the sound and music effects, and then they mixed the dubbing in 5.1, so they used the full room, and I feel you can hear that. It just makes everything more dynamic and feels more real, more as if they were actually talking in a space.
Absolutely. Maybe also on the topic of these innovations, because 5.1 is already some time away. Do you know of any recent advancements in audio technology or techniques that you're particularly excited about, or that you're that you saw or that you heard somewhere, that you really, I don't know, that this is like a new thing, this works amazingly well?
Well, I'm still blown away by the whole Atmos thing, having 20 or more speakers around you and just having the audio signal move between the speakers is kind of impressive, but I have yet to experience it in full. And then there is this whole object-based audio. I mean, it's more a thing for people who can still see, but I think it is a higher level of immersion, and that's definitely something good.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Atmos because of especially that, just like you said. I recently was in a movie with my wife in a big cinema with like 64 speakers. I counted, and it was, I don't know, it just added so much. I know it sounds like a bit of an overkill, but if you have a big room, and especially things like something flying overhead or something, I don't know, moving behind you, and not just in like X and Y, but also in the height, kind of adds something. Because of course, like, we are not like owls, we cannot really pinpoint if something is high above or low down. But I don't know, especially if you move your head a bit or something during the movie, I feel like you can really experience these height effects as well, which I always love.
And even though you can't hear like an owl, you are used to hearing sounds coming from everywhere and not just from 5 or 7 specific directions. So it feels just more natural, even though you don't get a clearer pinpoint accuracy from where this sound is coming above you.
Absolutely. Maybe one other technology I'd like to talk to you about is binaural sounds. I think we also touched on that during the conversation on the party. But what's your stance on binaural?
Just give me. Can you give me a quick rundown again? I'm just.
Oh yeah. I think we talked about that. But binaural essentially is you record with 2 microphones that are spaced just like in the place where your ear.
Oh, you mean that? Yeah. Okay. I just needed this hint.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's very interesting, but I don't know what an actual use case would be for me. I think this project Mariana Lopez was doing at the time you had her in your podcast was a good example how you can use that. But in regards to impairment, I'm not sure how I would use this technology. It's interesting nonetheless, especially since everybody is hearing a bit different.
Yeah.
And I think it is definitely something that will help us understand how we perceive audio, and maybe that's the best way to reverse use this technology. But I'm open for creative use cases.
Yeah, I can just say, like, I really liked that in the beginning, especially because it was like the first 3D sounds I heard. And I have this one sound on my computer that I always show to people when I ask them about binaural and they don't know anything about it. It's like, okay, let me show you something. And I sit them down and I give them headphones because, of course, it only works on headphones. And there's a sound of a person knocking on a door behind you and to the left. And it's so intense that people are instinctively like turning their head. And behind me to the left in my studio is just a wall. So they're like confused for a second because their mind is telling them clearly someone just knocked on the door, and it's such a strong impact. I'm gonna send you the file. I'm gonna ask you what
Oh
you
yeah,
think
definitely.
about
I
it.
was about to
But
ask you.
yeah, of course. But that was like the first time I came in contact with it, and I still love it to this day. This binaural knock sound is it's a very, I don't know, a very well known wave, I think. But the other things I was exploring then is recording them myself. So I got a pair of in-ear headphones that have also microphones on them, which which I used for the intro for this podcast. So the intro is me just zipping up my gear, putting on my backpack, and walking down the stairs and opening up a door, and it always goes into recordings from the guest. And this was done with that binaural thing because I don't know, I love the texture of it, I love the feeling of it. But of course, the downside of it is if you move your head, essentially the whole illusion is done because it doesn't track head movements, so it's not the same as true 3D audio. But I think personally, what I really like as a use case, of course, those little quirks, but the other thing is listening to music. I found a place where you can buy like binaurally mixed and especially binaurally recorded music, and having a live performance of, for example, I don't know, an Irish folk band in an Irish pub, where you have all this atmosphere. I personally feel I really like the binaural recording more than the stereo. Of course, the stereo is good, and if it's mixed great, it can sound amazingly spacious. But this binaural recording, I don't know, it feels like you're sitting in a pub and listening to the music, and it transports you there. But yeah, as I said, it only works if you like sit still in your in your living room somewhere and just enjoy the music. Then it works. But as soon as you move, the illusion is
I
gone.
didn't think about
So,
that possibility. That's actually amazing. I have to try that out.
Of course, I'm happy to send you some examples or put you in the right
Thanks.
direction. Of course.
That's actually a thought
course.
I had once, where the mixing was great from the song, and I was thinking, man, that sounds like I was on the stage with the performance and just standing between all these instruments. It sounds to me like the experience having when I have these binaural recordings from music, that it might be even more realistic like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's especially like the more expensive ones. Then you have like a real dummy head, so it's like a head shape and two shaped ears, and there's microphones in those ears, so it's like a whole involved process, and it's very, very expensive to do that. But I feel it adds something. But it has been like binaural recording has been there for I think since the 70s even. It has been a long time. So unfortunately, as you can only experience it with headphones, it has a limited use case. But I think for music, it's amazing. Maybe going a bit more into that. How do you think like the film and gaming industry could do better in terms of accessibility for those with visual impairments, especially regarding, of course, the audio design? We already talked about the dialogues, but is there anything else where it's like, hey, this one is really obvious for me. Why don't you fix
the
that?
thing is, I actually like dubbed movies more than in their original audio, because the clarity is so much better. I know the wisdom is have the original audio because it feels more natural, and all these cracklings and not perfect spoken words are what feels natural. But I kinda hate it. It makes it unnecessary hard to understand what is spoken, and it just sounds messy in comparison to a movie that has complete artificial sound design. But I feel no, it's okay. I feel like it's also just my preference. But I had more than one case where I just defaulted to the back to the dubbed version, just because I could not understand what they were talking in the original audio track.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially clarity. I was just thinking that I think sometimes even for me, like I have this discussion with my wife as well, because if like dialogue is hard to understand, she really hates it, and I personally especially love that because it adds, for me it adds this kind of realism. For example, there's this specific thing which was discussed online a while ago. I think it was a Spider-Man movie where it was a scene where someone was playing the drums and talking, and you couldn't understand a word. Like you literally couldn't. You could put on subtitles and could read it maybe, but it wasn't meant to be heard per se. And I really loved that, and a lot of people hated that because they felt like not understanding every single word of the movie kind of robbed them of something, or there was something missing. But I think, yeah, especially just like for you, yeah, it doesn't make sense then, right? If you don't understand anything.
Yeah, but I also respect the director's intent. So if they intend me to not understand what is spoken, then I don't want to, because it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
And just so we are clear, I don't mean having the audio, the spoken audio raised above everything else, so nothing can distort it. I just mean it's sometimes unnecessarily bad spoken or recorded, and in the final mix it just isn't strong enough or clear enough to withstand the rest of the audio mixing. I actually love when you can hear the room where they are in or what they are doing right now. It gives the whole movie so much texture and so much more realism. You can improve the audio from any movie just by applying the sound of where they are where they are standing right now and how it is supposed to sound in this place. But I just can't stand when it's obviously it could have been done better on set, on recording, but they just didn't, because it's more natural like that.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean we're always dealing with, especially in movies, but also in games, with like this kind of hyper realism, right? It's like even if someone normally you wouldn't understand them because something is exploding, you understand them in the movie because it's important to the plot or whatever. So, but I get you. Like if all the time you have hard time understanding the dialogue through the whole movie, then it's not fun watching it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe going in the opposite direction of like things that annoy you. What are some games you played recently that you really loved, the sound design and the feeling of it and the whole thing? The whole experience was great for you.
Let me think for a moment. I really enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy VII Remake, so the first part.
Me too.
Just the cinematic feel was great, and the sound design was amazing. I never felt annoyed by any music. I think that's a really huge achievement for video games, because I feel like there's always one track or two tracks you just can't hear anymore when you're done with the game.
Yeah, especially if you're playing like, I don't know, 30 hours or something, and it's always the same track at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the sewage system had it almost, but when I revisited the game, I realized it's not that bad as I had it in mind. So the music got rehabilitated.
Yeah, I think especially with all the advancements in audio implementation nowadays, I think that is a big part of it, because I mean it used to be back then that you had a composer that made a couple of tracks, and someone would just implement them and they would play at some certain point. Maybe you had even some kind of, I don't know, loops and endings and beginnings, of course, at some point. But nowadays you can do so much cool things with audio implementation, like dynamic music systems, where it's, even if you're hearing the same, I don't know, exploration soundtrack for like 2 hours while playing, it's always a bit different because let's say you're at a certain chapter in the game and now they add a certain instrument to the exploration track because someone joined your party and it's represented by that instrument, for example. There's a lot of these things in behind the scenes that can be used exceptionally well to make, I don't know, a dynamic soundtrack and not just just playing tracks one after the other. Yeah.
There was one game I played. Wow, it's 6 years ago. Shining Resonance Refrain on the PlayStation 4. It was a remake of a PlayStation 3 game, but what they it's not a particular good game, but what they did was they had this musical theme across the game, and all the characters you had in your party fought with an instrument. And what they did was, depending on who had joined your party in the story already, the fanfare at the end of each battle changed and included all the instruments you currently had in your party. That was really nice.
Cool.
And for dynamic music, I actually didn't realize it when I played it, but Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe have a really dynamic audio soundtrack. You have to revisit that game with that in mind. It's mind-blowing. They did so many dynamic things, like adding percussions in the selection menu when you are getting to a specific selection screen, or having a saxophone on only one moment at the track where you're at the almost at the finish line, and just such things across the whole game. It's so amazing.
That is definitely something that I've also noticed. Yeah, I love the Mario Kart 8, and especially I think with all games Nintendo, they tend to be like very high class in sound and music, and I mean their whole philosophy is that, especially for Zelda and Mario games, that a lot of the sounds, or almost all the sounds, are always fitting the tone and the pitch of the music. I just realized it in the new Mario game. I'm just playing it with my daughter right now, and at the newest, I mean, it's already out for a bit, but you have so many like little details where, for example, if you're the big Mario and you jump and you collect a coin, there's a different pitch when you are small Mario. Then you have like the higher pitch, and it sounds very cute. It's so many like little differences that add to the soundscape of it, that tell you something audibly. And yeah, I hope I can interview some sound designer from Nintendo at some point, because
that would be great.
I really enjoy their approach. Yeah. Maybe one other question I also have is, for your future, like what kind of projects or genres do you see yourself working on in the future? Do you have something specific where it's like, okay, I want to do, like, just like you mentioned in the beginning, some kind of melancholy kind of movie things, or do you maybe want to go into a different direction, not just movies? What's your goal?
Oh, I definitely want to try out to make some games. I really I learned much about the Fatal Frame or Project Zero games. You might know them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a really impressive sound design, but also just the whole atmosphere in these games is great, and I feel like I'd like to do that as well. I would love to create a horror game where the horror is not the splatter you get thrown into your face, but the subtle tone shifts or these little moments where you just feel unsure if you are still sane. And the audio is such an important tool, especially for horror. I think there's much to explore here, and there has been many things explored already. And I would love to take a throw at this.
Yeah.
And well,
yeah, that's perfect. It's also something I'd like to do in the future,
cool.
Work on horror projects. And just like you said, something not in your face, but these subtle things where it's like suddenly it feels uncomfortable and you don't know exactly why. Most of the time it's because of the audio and the kind of feeling it gets you. And that's exactly what I'd like to work on as well. Cool.
And
and also, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going on. Yeah, I definitely want to check out animation movies more than I've done yet. I feel like I'm just a huge fan of animation. The reduced information you transmit visually has to be compensated by sound design. At least that's how I view it. And that doesn't mean that animation is simplistic. Quite the opposite, actually. I love the detailed drawings and all this love the animators put into their work. That's the reason because why I want to work on an animation movie and just want to help do the audio justice to these gorgeous animations.
Yeah, that I can really understand. Yeah. I mean, animation, I've done sound for 2 shorts, for 2 animated shorts, and it's always, I don't know, it feels so open and freeing, because just like you said, you start with a blank slate, right? You don't have a track from the set or something, because there is no set, so you don't have anything, and you can just create everything from scratch, and I find it to be like really freeing and interesting. And also, of course, you have so many possibilities to go into like more humor or more horror, or depending on what you do, you can really influence the end product a lot more. And so finding the right sound for animation, I think it's always so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a masterclass, actually, now that I think about it, since you are almost pushed to experience or think about audio in a completely new way, since you don't have a starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to decide, or rather, the cool thing is, I learned the importance of Foley when I worked on the first thing, because it's like, okay, you have to do every footstep, you have to do every, I don't know, rustling of the clothes, and then you think about, oh, do I have to do every footstep? No, which one is important? Which one can I just like not do at all because it gets drowned anyway? And how should the footsteps sound? And that is something that really blew my mind then, learning about like the importance of Foley as well, that you can do footsteps in so many different ways. You can have emotion in the footsteps, you can have uncertainty, you can have, I don't know, curiosity in a footstep. It's so much fun. And of course, this podcast is called Field and Foley, and that's one of the reasons, because Foley fascinates me so much, just like the field recording as well. And I'd like to know, do you want to prefer to work in the future on maybe our sound design as well, or go more into other aspects of the film?
I hope I get the chance to direct something sometime in the future.
Nice.
That would be a dream. I think I have many ideas when it comes to audio, but I don't think I am sophisticated enough with the technical aspect that I could be a audio technician myself. But I really hope I can work close with some amazing people who are. And I'm just open to what comes my way.
Yeah, that's a good way of going into life. Being open to what comes. That's always good. Um, yeah, I just remembered there is this wonderful like audio story called Homecoming. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Not yet.
I'm gonna send it to you. You're gonna love it. I'm pretty sure. That's the first thing that I've heard that really impressed me as like an audio story. It was concepted as an audio story, and it's not like the other audiobooks or something that I've heard, where it's just like people talking or reading something. It's like a play set up, and it's all made to work purely as an audio experience. And you have a lot of conversations where you hear it from one's character point of view, and they're on the phone with someone else, and you hear the actual sound like you would have pressed the phone to your ear, like the speaker from him, and he walks through the city, and sometimes there's dropouts or something like that, and it's very very intense. It's like a audio thriller. Can really recommend it, and I could see, like, I don't know, doing something like that in the future would be amazing. Doing some kind of audio story. Maybe we can work on something together.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I would be down for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put it on my list to do, but I'm very happy to have found someone that I can work on stuff like that with. So we'll be in touch about that. I'm gonna send you that. Yeah, one last question I have, and I don't even know if you already had this experience, but I always ask my guests, what is the first sound you've ever recorded, and why did you record it? So yeah, did you record anything yet in your life, and what was the first recording you did?
I did a lot recording, but it's mostly video with an audio track. The first thing I recorded for having it recorded was 1 year ago, when I was playing with the idea of doing a YouTube video, and the thing I was recording was my own voice, so it's not that special. But I think, no, actually, I recorded some visits to concerts. I don't think it's particularly legal, but I just wanted to have a memory of how it felt being there,
Yeah.
and that's why I just wanted to have all these feelings in a time capsule. And I think more than having a picture of how it looked, knowing how it felt, how it was sounding around you, brings back much more memories.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally agree. Oh man. And you see, like, this question always brings out something in guests. It's always something like, oh no, wait, let me think about that. I just remembered something. But that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, people make videos of concerts nowadays. I really hate when people just have their phones out all the time and just record that. But I can get like having a snippet of it to take home with you, and just like you said, to have this feeling of being there. And sound is most definitely, especially also for me, it's the more interesting part of it, like having a snippet of the concert as a sound snippet, to have how the room sounded that day, how the band sounded.
Yeah, and
that's a
how
good
the
thing.
audience sounded. I mean, it's not
Indeed.
not even the whole song they sing. I can hear that on my CD, but just having this feel again, sitting in these in the audience, hearing the sounds around you, how everybody is waiting for the performance, and how you felt. Were you talking to someone? It's just a rush of memories every time I listen into these recordings I made.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think that's a wonderful closing word for this episode. So again, thank you for your time. I'm pretty sure we will be in contact in the future as well. And I wish you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. I hope you have the same.